Good morning, Mets fans, and welcome to a Thursday edition of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and the Mets have done it again. Winners of 6 straight games, of 8 of their last 10. Today at 2 o'clock, looking for a second consecutive series sweep. Yes, these are lesser teams, but who cares? Mets now find themselves just 3 games under 500. Just 3 games under 500. 4.5 out of the wild card. And after not selling yesterday, I think I was right to believe that this season is not over. Last night was Jacob deGrom's turn on the mound, and as expected, the Mets offense didn't do anything for him. It's tough to blame the offense, though, as much last night, just because deGrom was facing Lucas Giolito, who's been really good this year. Lest we forget, this is the guy that the Nationals traded away for Adam Eaton. Good work, Nats. Giolito's come into his own this season. And he's really good. He pitched well last night. The pitcher's duel for the first 7 innings of the game was fun to watch. Fast-paced game, fast-moving game. But man, Jacob deGrom is just Ronnie called him a scientist, and he really is. I mean, he is like a professor on the mound. He's just a step ahead of everybody, it seems. And I mean, he makes a mistake every now and then, and he made a couple last night that the White Sox almost made him pay for. But he's so good, he's so precise. ERA is now under 2.80. I think he's still got the 5th best ERA in the National League, but just another terrific season. And as expected for Jake, another no decision because the Mets didn't score their runs till late, and so Jake remains at 6-7. I was really hoping that he'd get to 500 last night, but not to be in the month of July. We'll see what August brings for our Cy Young, Jacob deGrom. As I mentioned, the bats were sort of quiet for the first part of the game, but when it counted, both Todd Frazier and Michael Conforto came up with big hits in the clutch. Frazier's was great because it put the Mets in front, right? I mean, you can't get around that. But knowing how Edwin Diaz has struggled this season, Conforto's 2 runs, the insurance cushion that he provided with his clutch single, you can't say enough about that, because Diaz ended up giving up a home run in the bottom half. Now, you could argue that Diaz was pounding the strike zone with fastballs, and if he threw like 5 straight fastballs to, and I can't think of the guy's name who hit the home run, but you would think and you'd hope that in a different circumstance where we're a 1-run lead that he were protecting, he would have mixed his pitches a little bit better. I think his idea there was no walks, which I'm 100% on board with. A solo home run can't beat you, which was correct, and don't give these guys anything that they don't earn themselves. And I think Diaz looked good last night. That, of course, is coming just a few short hours after I said you got to take him out of the closer's role. I've supported Mickey Callaway a few times, but I have some really fundamental problems with him and his inflexibility and his rigidness when it comes to guys in certain spots. And I wrote 2 things yesterday. One was that Diaz should come out of the closer's role for the time being, and it should be Seth Lugo who is the closer for the Mets. And after that, I also said that they have to shake up the lineup a little bit and don't let Cano bat 4th behind Pete Alonso. Don't let Ramos bat 5th behind Robinson Cano, because these are, like, at this point, almost like 2 automatic outs or easy double play candidates, because neither of them run well. And I don't know why you'd put them back-to-back in the lineup. But once again, Mickey doesn't adjust at all. He sticks with his planned lineup. And I really shouldn't say Mickey, because who knows who's actually making the lineup and who's setting the lineup. You know, it could be something that's coming down from the Wilpons, from the front office, and them saying, like, this is what we want our lineup to be, and tough shit if you think we should be different. The other thing last night that made me scratch my head was in the ninth inning when Ramos reached on an infield dribbler that he turned into a single because of his lightning speed. I don't know why you don't pinch run for him from the start of the very next at bat. It isn't like Ramos is a brilliant defensive catcher and you'd be replacing him with a backup who's a defensive liability. Nito is the better of the two receivers on the defensive side, and Ramos is the slowest guy on the team. And you have at the time, the go-ahead run on first base with a guy who does hit for extra base power in J.D. Davis. Why wouldn't you have a faster guy pinch running from the start of the very next at-bat? And Davis almost made that happen with that line shot down the right field line, which may or may not have bounced fair if the White Sox ground crew would perhaps have extended that foul line just a smidge further. They might have been able to actually call that ball fair, in which case, what would have happened? Would Ramos have scored from first base on that? I said no way. He's too slow. It just wouldn't happen. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens with Mickey going forward. If he is ever given any kind of flexibility where he can make those sorts of decisions without getting in himself into trouble, or if he can, learn from his mistakes. And I didn't get to listen to the post game or see anything about it, but I would love to know if anyone asked him what the rationale behind not pinch running for Ramos was when he was on first base, but then pinch running for him when he was on second in scoring position. That doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, like I said, the Mets won 6 in a row. Looking for the sweep today. Non-traded Zach Wheeler on the mound. And, of course, non-traded Noah Syndergaard pitched on Tuesday. So the Mets pitching staff remains intact. The Mets team remains intact. The Mets did nothing at the deadline outside of acquiring, I was going to say Braun Strowman, but Marcus Stroman. Marcus Stroman from the Blue Jays, which really surprised everybody. Would it have been nice to see the Mets do something to address their bullpen? Yes, but I said this, and I've said this a few times. Like, I was listening to MLB Network Radio on Sirius yesterday, and there was a caller who was complaining about the Dodgers doing nothing, and they didn't do anything. They didn't add a bullpen arm. They didn't do anything at all, really. And this guy was complaining like the ownership should be fired. They lied to us. They told us they were going to try to make changes. And here's my thought on all this and everyone's opinions. And what I'm about to say about the Mets not adding to the bullpen. We don't know whether they tried to. Right? We're hearing now in days past after the trading deadline, we're going to hear things about how teams made offers for certain players. Like, we've heard that Zach Wheeler was. The Mets were trying to shop Wheeler to St. Louis, and they were asking for Harrison Bader in return, and the Cardinals said no to that. There was, of course, Andy Martino talking about how badly the Yankees wanted Zach Wheeler, but weren't willing to part with Estevan Florial or the Davy Garcia kid in AA. These sorts of things happen. Just because you want something, right? I want a reliever that's on some other team. The other team has to want something in return and need something in return to make that worth doing and happening. So it's not a one-way street. It's not like, well, the general manager did nothing, he should be fired. You don't know what the general manager tried to do, and that's the difference here. And if Brody tried to contact teams about available relief pitchers, good. That's what should have happened. And I'm sure he did, because this guy doesn't seem like he's sitting on his hands doing nothing. So I don't know. Everyone that's freaking out that the Mets didn't add a bullpen arm, let's not assume that they didn't try to. Okay, and if they tried and failed, oh well. It happens. I'm of the belief, and I've been for a while, that the guys in this bullpen, for the most part, are pretty talented, and that includes the horrific Jerry Familia. That includes the unstable Edwin Diaz. That includes the lefty specialists Justin Wilson and Luis Avilan. These guys are better than they've been. And I've said all season that the Mets bullpen woes will almost have to correct themselves, only because they can't possibly continue to be this historically bad. And yes, it's been subpar competition, right? Pirates, not good. White Sox, not good. Pirates this weekend, not good. Marlins next week, not good. Doesn't matter. These are the sorts of games that can be confidence builders for the bullpen. And if it's possible to get them on track, boy, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. I'm telling you, by this time next week, the Mets are going to be over 500. They're going to be over 500. They're going to be riding the wave of momentum from a terrific start to the second half. And, I mean, look, 4 years ago, 2015, at the end of July, we were at the lowest of possible lows. And what ended up happening in 2015? It's why I haven't given up on the season. It's why I don't want to give up on the season. There's too much talent on this team to give up on it. I'm glad it's paying off. Even if it doesn't happen, even if the Mets miss the playoffs, even if they falter again, I don't care, because these last 10 days have been really fun. And that's what being a baseball fan is supposed to be about. You follow your team, you love your team through the highs and the lows. Right now we're on high, and I'd love for it to stay that way, but we'll see. This afternoon, the Mets look for the sweep. 2:10 start Eastern time. Zach Wheeler on the mound against, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's got an ERA approaching 7. So the Mets will more than likely struggle to get hits off of him. We'll see what happens. I'll be back tomorrow for what may be the last Driving with Mr. Met for about 10 days. I'll talk more about that tomorrow. But until then, thanks for watching today. You can follow me on Twitter at Mr._Met. And as always, let's go Mets.